Okay, students, we've made it to our last lesson before our Thanksgiving break. Our lesson is entitled the Punnett Square. The Punnett Square is a model that we use in genetics. It allows us to study the probability of inheriting a trait. Let's get started with today's lesson. All right, so let's go over a few vocabulary words. Homozygous dominant. You've inherited two dominant alleles from both parents. Heterozygous. You've inherited one dominant allele and you've inherited one recessive allele. And then remember, homozygous recessive. You've inherited two recessive alleles from both parents. In order for you to display or express the homozygous recessive trait, you've got to have one from mom and one from dad. Remember, the Punnett Square allows us to determine the probability of inheriting a trait. Let's get started. We have a few practice problems we'd like to do. So let's get started with a few practice problems. Please make sure that you do your work and make sure that you do the very best that you possibly can. At the end of the activity, students, enjoy your Thanksgiving break, and we'll see you guys when you return. Thank you. Okay, let's talk about a Punnett Square. So, a Punnett Square is going to be, again, a tool that's used by geneticists. And the purpose of a Punnett Square is to calculate the probability of inheriting a trait. Remember, step one, write down your legend. In this example, we'll be looking at brown eyes versus blue eyes. Allow capital B to represent the brown eye gene. Allow the lowercase b to represent the blue eye gene. Parents. Let's talk about the parents' genotypes. Parent number one is homozygous dominant for brown eyes times parent number two is homozygous recessive for blue eyes. Based on the Punnett Square, what is the probability of the child inheriting brown eyes? Let's get started. Let's do our Punnett Square. So, step number one, parent number one, the genotype goes at the very top of the Punnett Square. Capital B, capital B. Put a number one to represent parent number one. Parent number two goes on the left-hand side, and these are actually called the axis of the Punnett Square, lowercase b, lowercase b. Offspring number one, parent one gives a capital B in the egg. Parent two gives a lowercase b in the sperm. Sexual reproduction produces an offspring. This offspring inherited a heterozygous genotype. They have the brown eyes because capital B is dominant to the lowercase b, which is recessive. So this particular gene is going to go through transcription and translation. Organism number two, capital B from the egg, lowercase b from the sperm, heterozygous, brown. Offspring number three, capital B from the egg, lowercase b from the sperm, heterozygous, brown. And organism number four, capital B from the egg, from the mom, and lowercase b from the dad, from the sperm, heterozygous, brown. The first thing you need to write down is your genotypic ratio. I'm just going to write down genotype for short. We have four that are heterozygous. I'm going to use HT for heterozygous. That's going to represent 100%, 4 out of 4. Phenotypic ratio, that's the actual trait. We have four that have brown eyes. That represents 100%. In this example, no child will inherit the lowercase b genotype because parent number one is homozygous dominant. Whenever you have homozygous dominant and homozygous recessive, students, you're going to always get heterozygous. I'd like for you guys to please try the Punnett Square examples. Follow the steps. Step number one, read the question. Step number two, create your legend. Understand what the different alleles are representing. These are different segments or sections. This is a gene, of course, and the different forms that a gene may take, these are called alleles. And we represent those alleles with letters. Capital means dominant, lowercase means recessive. And then remember your genotypes, capital, homozygous dominant, lowercase, homozygous recessive, capital, and lowercase, heterozygous. At this time, you may begin your activity.